Good evening and welcome to tonight's City of Burnside's Council meeting on August the 22nd, 2023, opening at 7 p.m. Welcome to all those present here in the Council chamber and to those who are watching from home. Before we commence, could you please make sure you've turned your mobile phone off or placed them on silent if you haven't done so already, as they're not to be used during Council meetings. Please stand and remain silent during the acknowledgements. We acknowledge the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. We pay respect to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting and attending from other areas of South Australia and Australia. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to all those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. We also consider in our thoughts all those who today are being affected by war around the globe, and especially those in Ukraine. Finally, we seek guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. Shouldn't need to say, but just to remind you about using your microphones to register your intent to speak. And please turn off your microphone when you have finished speaking. The lady who's sitting out in the foyer, you are able to come into the meeting room and sit in the chairs behind the railing there. That seating was just through COVID. Please be respectful and patient while listening to each speaker and do not interrupt or interject during the debate. A reminder of 3 minutes with a warning bell of 2. Now with Mr. Cooper not being here, who's doing the bell duty? Thank you. Now to the agenda. It's a short agenda and there are a number of motions on notice with an extra report that was not included in the original agenda which you should have received as well, relating to the Burnside Hospital, which is now item 11.4. So, I've gotten to my first page. We have apologies from Councillors Cornish and Hubel, who are unwell, and there are no leave of absence. Is there anyone who has a declaration of interest this evening on any of the items, either motions on notice or reports? If not, I'll assume we move on. And confirmation of minutes, I need someone to move the motion to accept those minutes. Councillor Dawes, moving. Councillor Zing, seconding. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We have no adjourned business, no public presentations or deputations or petitions tonight. So we move straight to the reports, and I'll find out if for someone who wishes to withdraw it for debate. First of all, 11.1, Councillor Henschke. Mayor's Activity Report. Councillor Dawes. Chief Executive Report. Councillor Davey. And the Burnside Hospital item. Also Councillor Davey. Right. We'll go back now to the first one, which is Councillor doesn't have to be Councillor Henschke. Whoever gets their name on there, it is Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I move the Council approves the implementation of one-way traffic flow, and that's along Winchester Lane from south to north between Hewer Avenue and Eliza Lane, Rose Park. And 2, that Council notes that the Council will continue to monitor Winchester Lane with a particular focus on identifying illegal traffic flow with the support of SA Police. Now, I want to make sure you fully understand that Council, under item 1 there, approves one-way traffic flow along Winchester Lane from the south to the north, just between Hewitt Avenue and Eliza Lane, Rose Park, which is only a few hundred metres in parallel with Kensington Road. It's not the entire length of Winchester Lane, because I've had a chat with one councillor who had the impression that it was the whole length, and yes, there was a consultation about the whole length, as you could see from the consultation results. And then administration then engaged again with the community about the option of a short section, and both Councillor Cornish and myself have met and we're all aligned with the community happily for just one-way traffic flow just between Hewitt Avenue and Liza Lane. Very short section. It will be an intervention to stop, hopefully minimise or mitigate cut-through traffic from Kensington Road, in particular peak hour time, at the end of the day, cutting through, all that cuts through to Alexandra Avenue, cuts through to Greenhill Road. This ward the amenity of this ward is affected. We have got major arterials surrounding it, and the community are tolerant, but this has become an amenity issue and safety, but the administration has advised that it's mainly amenity. And please support this. The administration, I thank them. They've done a marvellous job of spending a lot of time carefully engaging with the community, carefully looking for all the voices in the community to hear that. And this is a balanced solution that you have here tonight, a recommendation from the community, and I can say that the community, through various other groups like the Youth Residents Association, they've also engaged with the community thoroughly, listening to people's concerns. The problem is there's a lane, you have trucks and traffic cutting through. The problem is houses, these old homes have windows right up against the lane, and people just, it's not pleasant to have trucks and cars dashing through, and we would be improving the lives of many, many people in this lane, and that's what we're here for, to improve amenity and their safety. So thank you. I do look for a seconder, because my dear colleague Councillor Cornish isn't here, and I can say he has been completely behind this, so thank you so much.
Councillor Jennings, you're happy to second? Do you wish to speak now?
I'm happy to second. I reserve my right.
Thank you. Councillor Jones?
Can I ask a question, please?
You certainly can.
If you look at the map on page 16, this one-way zone is going to be the length of one house. So how is it going to be enforced? Because I can legally turn down the lane from Kensington Road, and then I might just think, I'll take my chances, I'll keep going. So how are you actually going to stop people? Unless SAPOL are going to be sitting there night and day waiting for people to just say, hey, I'll take my chances.
Through Madam Mayor, I'll refer that to Mr. Cant.
Through Your Worship, you're absolutely correct. It's resolving a very localised issue with the support of the community that we've consulted with. What we will do, though, once these changes are made, we will monitor the traffic movement to get understand the extent of the issue at that stage, and if we believe we still have an ongoing problem, which includes illegal traffic movement, we'll report that to SAPOL. And if we have evidence of ongoing illegal traffic movement, then SAPOL will certainly take a very close look at it.
Councillor Davey?
I have a question. Thank you, Mayor. Are there any other examples? This is a very unusual trajectory of traffic, to my way of thinking. Are there any other examples like this where there's different, in just a block or two, where we have differing traffic ways? And how are they administered?
Through Madam Mayor, Mr. Cant.
Through Your Worship, not to my knowledge within the city. So when this was initially brought to the administration's attention, our intention was to actually consider one-way traffic the entire length of the lane. However, following the second round of consultation, that was not supported by all residents. This recommendation is a compromise to try and meet the needs of all residents within the locale.
Councillor Wilkins.
Just a question to the staff. Are there any, okay, one-way section, right, no through traffic, but are there any low-profile speed humps further down the lane to actually stop? No, none at all.
Through your worship, there are no speed humps in this section.
Yeah. Oh, that's there.
Would you just turn your mic off, please,
Sorry,
Councillor?
sorry.
Councillor Dawes.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I went down there today. I went down Winchester, and really Winchester is a one-car wide lane because it's got extra white posts there. My concern was if we didn't make it one way all the way, that the rat runners would still continue down Winchester and turn right into Eliza Lane. And Eliza Lane on the left-hand side are private homes, and that's where the garages are. On the right-hand side, most of those, if not all, are commercial premises. So I do take what the administration is saying in paragraph 44, that there will be like a time period to see how, if it does work, and there will be some traffic surveys done. But if I was a rat runner, I'd be turning right into Eliza, and that intersection of Eliza and Winchester is very, very tight. So that's another worry for me. I will accept the motion because that's the way the residents are saying is the best solution, but I wonder if it is. And so I'll be waiting for those survey results over time.
Councillor Davey.
I have another question, if I may. Just following up from Councillor Dawes' concerns, which I concur with. Is this actually a trial or is this an implementation and we hope for the best? Because the motion is approves the implementation of one-way traffic flow. It doesn't say a trial or for any length of time. Would it be appropriate to make an amendment that it be a trial of the implementation?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Further to Mr. Cant.
Would you second that if I moved?
Through your worship,
Can you turn your mic off, please?
in reality, the changing of the traffic conditions are, other than notification in a local publication, it's simply signage and then enforcement. We will monitor traffic as we go. If we believe this change has caused further issues, we can either address immediately, or we can consider as part of the precinct-wide traffic study, which will be happening in this entire area as part of the City Master Plan Action Plan results within the next 12 months. I'm comfortable with the recommendation as it stands, and we can make changes if required following assessment.
I haven't anyone else on my screen. Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I was reading the minutes this afternoon and I couldn't quite get my head over why all of Winchester Lane was going to be made one way. So I hopped on my bike, sunny afternoon, and headed down there. And it's busy. It's really busy with a maxo-oral surgeon on the corner there, a daycare on the other side. And at 3:30 in the afternoon, there was a lot of traffic pulling from Kensington Road, going straight down that lane, not going fast, like well under the speed limit, but going quick enough that they would not see a child walking out of a garage. Like, visibility is horrible. I can't say if they were running or if they were avoiding the traffic lights at Prescott Avenue, but the looks on the faces of their drivers they had a look of focus that they knew what they were doing. So I will be supporting this, especially now that I know that it's not the entire length of Winchester Lane, and that's my fault for not reading it correctly.
Thank you. Councillor Davey?
Thank you, Mayor. I will move an amendment. I'll move that council approves the implementation of a trial one-way traffic flow along Winchester Lane from south to north between Hewitt Avenue and Eliza Lane Rose Park, and that council will monitor Winchester Lane with a particular focus on identifying illegal traffic flow with the support of SAPOL for 12 months.
Can I suggest up to?
Yes, I'm happy with
Are
that.
you happy with that? That gives, well, I think the intent that Mr Cant expressed earlier, that if they find the problem earlier than that, then they want to act then. So if we say up to 12 months, Mr Cant, does that give that all right for you? Okay. You okay with that? And it is an amendment, it's not a dramatic change in the motion, so not a variation. So
Okay.
as long as the mover and seconder are happy with that.
Can
Councillor
we see
Henschke?
that written up? Sorry. Approves.
No, just an amendment. Oh, well, I think it's a variation. I think it's a variation, sorry, it's a variation, not an amendment. And if you agree and Councillor Jennings agree, it would just be an amendment. So it would add in the for up to 12 months. Sorry, and the word trial, yeah.
I haven't even spoken yet. I haven't spoken yet.
No, I know you haven't spoken, don't worry. But I just need to let me know yes or no.
I need to ask a question. I'm not clear that it's a trial. What happens after the trial? It's reviewed.
I'll leave that with you.
Through Madam Mayor, at the conclusion of the trial, a final determination would be made
The
as to
report to council.
who do you want to answer it? I'm here to answer it. Through you, Madam Mayor, at the conclusion of the trial, officers would assess whether it's been a success or whether it needs further amendment, and based on this, it would need to come back to council to determine the long-term future of that treatment.
Does that help you, Councillor Henschke?
If it's helping the motion, yes.
To get through? Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Jennings, because you would have to approve it as well. You approve. No, it was Councillor Jennings who seconded. Yes. All right. Councillor Henschke? Are you happy with that slide? Have we got the wording in there now? Approves a trial. No, I'll let you speak. I haven't forgotten, but I just want to get the wording. I just want to get the wording right first, because. Okay.
So I just wanted you three. I can't. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I've turned mine off. Can I be heard?
Councillor Henschke, can you turn yours off?
Thank you. Notes that council will continue to monitor Winchester Lane with a focus on identifying illegal traffic flow, and a report be brought to council of the outcomes. That was just, I just wanted to formalise that. So there's all that flexibility included in there. And just to comment, I understand the dilemma, and it's interesting to read the feedback from the community. There's some very interesting comments. And it is quite a quite busy area, but I actually know that well because there's a whole lot of professional consulting rooms along Kensington Road who back onto Eliza Lane, which is the parking area for customers. So when I go to visit my vet at Rose Park Vet, I go down Winchester Lane, along Eliza Lane and into the car park. And you really do need it open and flowing. And I think Councillor Dawes is right that there is a risk of through traffic using that as a rat run to go through that way. So it's a very creative new development for us to manage traffic in a very densely populated and business area. But I am worried that we need to keep an eye on it and have it a report come back to us about the outcomes when we monitor it, because we just don't know what unintended consequences they might be. Hopefully it'll work for everybody. Thank you.
I'd just like to ask a question. When we put the no left turn into Hood Street off of Devereux Road, that was a trial period of time, and then did that come back as a report to council? My memory fails me on that, because subsequently we then put in a roundabout and rumble strips in Verdale. So I'm just curious to know.
Through your worship, it's a slightly different situation. That was an interim solution to resolve a long-term problem. The no left-hand turn came in until we could then put the roundabout in place. So it wasn't a trial per se, it was an interim solution prior to the roundabout going in.
Thank you. I just wasn't sure if this was completely comparable or there were different conditions, and I was just curious. Okay. Is there any, Councillor Wilkins?
Yes, I really do want to speak to this. And I do support Councillor Davies' amendment, because I see this as a trial run for Matilda Dixon Lane in Eastwood. Same problem, only one way is solution in Eastwood, so that we have stem the flow of rat runners in the back lane. So I will follow this with interest, and over the next 12 months, no longer. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this? Because I have no more names here, so I'd like to go back to the mover, Councillor Henschke. Right, Councillor Henschke.
Thank you all, and thank you for the amendment. We have now a solid motion, and especially what I like about this motion is for the benefit of the whole of the city of Burnside, where we are finding more and more in each ward these nuances of amenity impacts that we might not always know about, and it's taken this community, for example, 2 years of voicing and very patient administration, collecting data, and we're still going to collect more data over the next 12 months, and it's good to get a report, so thank you for the amendment, Councillor Davey and Councillor Wilkins and others for supporting it. Because only with good data we can make decisions, and then this will map onto the traffic area studies for all our areas as a learning of what works. So we'll do more of what works well, and for the businesses they've been engaged with, and that will come through the report as well. But look, simply it's we can just bottleneck this point and deter these rat runners. And yes, I'm glad that the Administration Director Kant is very comfortable, we've heard. There are some speed humps there, but that's a solution we would like to move away from, I think, as a principle, I believe. But that's, I think, all I've got to cover for you all, your concerns. So thank you all.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Right, thank you. Thank you, a resident from that area who has come along. I didn't realise it was you outside before. Yes. Yeah. Our next one is Mayor's activity report. Councillor Dawes. Yes,
I think you'd like to move the officer's recommendation here. I did give advance notice to the Mayor about my question, I'm going to suggest to the Mayor that when she speaks on radio, that she adds that, she explains what she talked about. So what my question to her in advance was, what did you discuss about the future of the McGill campus on August the 11th for ABC Radio?
Well, I appreciate you doing that. If I do that with one, then I need to do it with everything, and I'm not
No, only
prepared to do
radio,
that.
I was thinking, we're
Okay.
involving radio.
All right, well, there is a recording of such an event anyway, but I can tell you what happened. I had listened to Jules Schiller in the afternoon before on ABC Radio talking with a number of people about the campus, university campus, and what might happen in the future. And I rang in, but I was driving on the freeway, so I couldn't ring in until I got to a safe place. By the time I rang in, it was too late to speak. So they told me that they may be talking about it again the next day, so I listened again. And it started with Vincent Tarzia, the MP, local MP, talking about the future of the campus and explaining that the western side of Penfold Road would remain university property for at least another 10 years, whilst they were looking at what might happen to the eastern side of Penfolds Road, where the soccer pitches and it's Max Amber Oval, the oval and the tennis courts are currently. And I then heard Nick Champion call in and explain further details from the Minister's perspective. So I took the opportunity, because I have been talking with Campbelltown Council about potential future development of that space. And one of the things that Minister Champion was talking about was the need for balance. And I hopped in on that, and I was the last person to speak. So, what's his name, Bevan? David Bevan didn't have a chance to collar me or interview me as such. It was really, I just spoke on it. That's why I said I spoke. I didn't debate it. I just got the opportunity to say that whatever happens with that facility or that space needs to have a balance between the need for housing, and I said affordable housing, not $1 million apartments, and the need in the east for space, for open space for sport. And particularly in light of the success of the Matildas and what was happening with the increased demand across the whole of the eastern area, and how actually for the need for more sporting grounds. That land is too expensive. I said land is too expensive for our era councils to buy, and particularly to demolish and then to try to turn into sports fields. And we do not have enough for the massive increase in demand of women and girls sport. And so I really focused on that balance between any kind of development and open space and the need for open space. So that was actually a summary of what I had to say in a matter of about 2 minutes, I think. And then the item finished. So there was no further debate, no discussion, nobody else called in, nobody else participated. It was just Tarzia, Champion and myself. Councillor Turnbull?
Just a quick question. Did the Mayor of Campbelltown also speak?
No, I texted her to let them know it was happening, but she was in a meeting and couldn't. But I have filled her in on what I said. We have been talking, collaborating on this for the whole period of time. Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Your Worship. I did actually hear Your Worship, on radio, speaking exactly what I just texted to ABC Text, that land, because I had viewed it on the way back from watching the under-13 girls in their semi-final play football on Sunday, and 2 teams actually had to travel to Hope Valley. They could not play at Glenunga, and they both won their semi-final, so they're in a grand final next Sunday. But that space on the western side of the road is ideal for sport eastern side. Yes, I'm visually going this way. Eastern side is absolutely spot on for sporting fields, and even the old tennis courts could be reinstated as netball courts. It's just vital, because there's not enough space for these young people to actually participate in our own area.
And This is 5 councils who have the same
Yes,
problem.
absolutely.
All of the era councils have the same problem.
Absolutely. So I strongly suggest you all lobby your MPs. Thank you.
I failed to get a seconder for that, so can I get a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Jennings. You wish to speak?
No, Your Worship.
Are you happy for me to move the motion? Put the motion? All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Chief Executive Officer's report. Councillor, whoever gets that. Dave?
Thank you, Mayor. I will move in accordance with the recommendation. Can we note the correspondence? I just had some queries about some of the staffing issues and also the, on page, the one I had major difficulties with was the dashboard on page 69. Because to my mind, and I don't know how other people feel, but to my mind this doesn't give me enough information about what's going on, and especially in relation to customer service requests. I was concerned to see that, well, I wasn't sure how many of these we have, so I asked the CEO for some more details, and he kindly sent an email to us all this afternoon. And I was very surprised at the number of customer service requests we actually have, because I haven't seen a report in recent times that actually tells us what our requests are and what sort of requests we have and what we have any problems with or why we have delays. So I have to say I was quite concerned to see that we have had in 2.5 years 32,000 customer service requests lodged, and I don't know how we get a report, whether I need to move a motion on notice or whether we need a workshop. I'd just like to know how we can do things better. Are there any problems or how we can do things better? And then I have a couple of other questions. The other question I had...
Councillor Davey, can we just let the CEO answer this question first?
I'll turn my
and then you
speaker
can
off.
go to the next one. I'll let you ask 2 questions and then I need a seconder and then I'll come back, or I'll find out if there's anyone else who wishes to speak and I'll come back to you, all right?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just with regard to the dashboard, councillors may recall that I alluded to the fact that we were going to put one together and then incrementally over time expand it based on feedback from elected members. So I really appreciate the feedback. And in fact, today at our exec team meeting, we actually were talking about the customer requests and how we were showing them here. And in fact, just looking at the CEO's KPI target there is too narrow. So what I'd like to do is action your thoughts and add 2 more lines about the CRMs into this dashboard. One line I'd like to put in is the actual number of CRMs that we're processing whether it's each month or annually cumulatively. And then I'd also like to put an actual number against showing the open requests and the actual number that are overdue, but there's greater, more than 20 days from their time frame. But I just want to clarify, you said you were concerned about the 32,000. I don't think there's need to be concerned, because that's just the simple sheer number of requests the community are sending into council. The key thing we need to do is make sure that we're turning them around in a timely fashion. And so I'll add some more lines here to assist with that understanding.
We can't really control the incomings at all.
And in fairness...
And we have got 46,000 people potentially who could be asking questions.
And in fairness, we want our community to ask things of us, yes.
Councillor Harvey. Seconding?
I've got a question.
Well, I need a seconder first.
Oh,
Okay, well, second.
You happy to second, and then if
Yes.
you wish to speak later, you can.
Thank
But
you.
For
Yes.
now, go ahead with your question.
My question is related to point 32, and at the very last few words, it says the 29th of December for community consultation for Kensington Gardens and McGill, 40 kilometre per hour speed limit. I think that's a typo. I think it should be September, if that can please be amended. Thank you.
Do you wish to withhold your opportunity to speak as a seconder until later? All right. Councillor Davey, then you have another question?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes. The other was about staff turnover stats and the positions vacant, which is on, well, the dashboard talks about, on page 69, talks about a staff turnover rate of 14.66, which seems to me quite high. And then on page 59, there's more detail about the positions vacant. And I asked more questions, and in your email to us this afternoon, you talked about the positions, two of the positions have been, that I'm concerned about, have taken a long time to recruit. So that's the events coordinator and the business partner procurement. So I'm just wondering why we're having such huge turnover rates, and is there something we need to be doing or can be doing to review this and take some action?
Through Madam Mayor? Yep. Through Madam Mayor, happy to address those questions. I think the first point is our turnover rates are in line with the industry average, so they're certainly not out of the ordinary. And it is an annualised figure that we're showing there. You'll know, I think you've all received the email which showed some of the reasons people are leaving the organisation. And I think it's fair to say people leave organisations for lots of reasons. And if you look at our overall stats, it generally, at least 50% are they're pursuing career opportunities that we couldn't provide in the organisation. There were some other comments, which I'm sure you've all taken note of in the email. Part of the response is to ensure that we're all working together to ensure we're building a good environment for our staff. And that includes what I do as the CEO, but in part it does reflect on how this council operates as well. That all plays a part. Now, having said that, some roles are more difficult to recruit. The procurement position, we have certainly had some challenges recruiting. I think that's more about perhaps the specialist nature of the role. The only response I can give council is that we're going to keep pushing hard to fill these roles. The list there looks artificially larger than it actually is if you take into account the youth development, the team member ARB and the urban forestry, which are all have been approved by council, but we can't recruit them because the budget has been set by council there. So, in short, I do agree with Councillor Davey that I would love all these positions to be filled overnight and operating for us. But I really feel that the organisation is achieving to the best of its ability to recruit as soon and as efficiently as possible. Thank you.
Councillor Davey, you have another question?
Thank you. In paragraph 20, there was, over a period of 4 or 5 weeks, there was casual labour required at a cost of $84,000. And I just wondered what that was for. That's equivalent to 11.6 FTEs. I thank you for your clarification of those other matters, but I'm asked, can you explain that? And can I also ask, have we got enough staff for the expectations we've got of what our expectations are of the administration?
I'll break that down into 2 parts, and I might just get Mr. Spearman just to elaborate on the casual hours for me, and then I'll come back to the second part of your question.
Through the mayor, it's part of running the business. There's a lot of seasonal requirements where we influx and increase and decrease casuals as we go along. Certain periods of the year, there's seasonal requirements, for example, to ramp up at the depot. There's, when the swimming centre opens, that ramps it up again. So that's explains the fair amount of the casual increase and decrease, because we can't keep everybody all on permanent, obviously. Does that answer the question?
I might add to that. What I'll do in future reports, to put some context around these numbers, is I'll actually show the same time for last year, and where we're able to perhaps indicate where there's been a particular upkick in need. We'll point out what departments that in. So I'm happy to, in future reports, provide a bit more clarity around that. With the second part of your question, you asked, have I got enough staff to deliver what we're trying to achieve? If I had a magic checkbook, the answer is no, I don't. We are looking to deliver to a high standard for our community. And, you know, I don't have the number off the top of my head this evening, but certainly in terms of on-the-ground staff, I could always do with more. But like any budget, whether it's a household or whether it's councils, we've got to find that balancing point. And at this point, we're trying to do the best we can with our limited resource. But I'm certainly welcome the opportunity, you know, coming into next year's budget perhaps, and also take into account the landscaping report that we're currently working through, and I know council members are having conversations, if they haven't already started, having them shortly with the consultant that's helping us do that. I think coming into next year's budget, we will be having some conversations around targeted staff increases to match community and council expectation.
Councillor Hallett.
I've got two questions.
I'll let you ask your two questions, but just give them one at a time.
Okay. The first question is in regard to the dashboard, and is the wait time for street tree service requests 40 days minimum?
Through Madam Mayor, the short answer is yes. Our previous iteration of the timeframe was up to 90 days, so we managed to pull that back. Now, it doesn't mean staff wait for the 45 days. Obviously, if we can get to it sooner, they will, but we aim for a maximum of 45, and what we do with that is we tend to triage the request. So if it's urgent, our team will go straight out, no doubt. But some of the time, it's not an urgent matter, and we can put it out, worst case, to that 45. Yep. And if I can link that to Councillor Davies' point, we could pull that back further, but I would be asking for more staff to process those requests.
Second question?
Second question relates to the South Australian Youth Action Plan, attachment C. And just to sort of give a bit of background, given that we've got increasing demand for increasing demand on our existing sporting and recreation facilities, that we are expecting, you know, we've been told what our growth will be as part of the regional plans. I'm wondering if we can talk to our nearby councils to combine with the regional review to actually ask the state to seriously consider funding councils to actually, in a partnership type approach, for regional, I don't mean country regional, I mean regional in suburban facilities, so that we can purchase land that's near borders with a view to increasing sports facilities, because it seems to me, since I've been on council, we're talking about our youth population growing, that there's a unmet demand for wheel sports, and that there's growing demand for both traditional and non-traditional sports, related to our multicultural changes to our population. So I think we're always going to be having fights in regard to using our existing reserves. So can't we actually try and draw in some partnerships with other councils and approach the state?
Can I answer that one? Prior to the last election, the mayors and CEOs of the 5 era councils met with both representatives of both political parties with a wish list, and one of the most important was the first one was open space. Trees was another, bike paths was another, connectivity. I can't remember, heritage was another. So, but the one about the open space was really made very clear to both. At the time it was Vicky Chapman and the 2 members of the Labor Party who came to our meeting, and we explained the absolute desperate need for the whole of the eastern region for the ability to purchase land, to have land open, to use government schools for weekend sport and after-school sport. And there was we had lengthy conversation, over an hour with each of those representatives. As an era group of councils, we continue those conversations. CEO and I attended the last era meeting last Thursday night, and that was a topic of the conversation as well. So as a group, we're already doing that. And it's not about actually competition between us. If we could see something, it's a bit like the collaboration that we had between Campbelltown and McGill to get the McGill village constructed. It's not about competing against, it's actually about working with and trying to get the best possible solution for everyone in this on this eastern side of town. So that's why I'm talking, I meet with these mayors sometimes separately, but particularly at our era meetings, that is still an ongoing focus. So Campbelltown have already, I know that you were keen to look at the potential of using that space up there for a skate park. Well, Campbelltown are already building a massive skate park at Paradise Interchange. It's enormous, and if you go on Facebook, you can see the development there. So they're not going to be looking for a space to build another skate park. What they're going to be looking at, or are looking at, is the potential for more soccer, hockey, field sports, and to use those ovals best they can. And if we can help with that, and we can lobby with that to do that, then I think it's not just us as Burnside, it would be North Payne St Peters and the other era councils who would be looking for that as well. I think potentially, personally, I think the potential for a fantastic sports hub in that location. But anyway.
And I'll just add, if I may, Madam Mayor, just a small extension of that thought. I think we've got an opportunity through the Greater Adelaide Regional Plan consultation process to not only address our specific needs. I think we can put a regional, to use your version of regional, a regional comment in.
Yep.
So I think it's appropriate.
All good ideas that we really are looking at, yeah. Councillor Davey, back to you.
Thank you. Just one final quick question. I know Mr Speakman advised us, getting back to paragraph 20 and all these casual hours, 1,700 casual hours, was the swimming pool wasn't open, so we weren't using temporary staff there. Was that the tree planting? Was that contractors for tree planting? I'm just trying to visualise in my head what we needed all those casual hours for in a 4-week period.
Through Madam Mayor, I'm happy to provide you a specific answer, but I suspect that it will be a combination. We always have, I think there might be some casual library staff, but I suspect it will be on the outdoor workforce. So what I'll do, I'll take that as a question on notice and provide all councillors with a summary of those hours.
Councillor Davey, you haven't actually spoken, you've only asked questions. Did you want to speak on this? Happy to move the motion, for me to move the motion now? All right, then I'll put the motion for you to vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Now we have 11.4, which is not listed on your original agenda. That is the Burnside Hospital, and I think I'm waiting to see a name on the screen. Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm happy to move the motion as written and approve the addition of 2 new board members to the Burnside Hospital Board, those being Mr Paul Anderson and Dr Nick Warwork, for a 3-year term effective immediately until the 31st of August 2026.
Do you wish to say anything further?
I'll just say we did have a briefing from the hospital about the changes that have been underway and that are taking place now. And we've got a copy of the constitution of the hospital, and which explains its links with the City of Burnside. It's a very unusual position, but it's our treasured hospital, much highly regarded by our community. The administration of the hospital assure us that this is an innovative development that they're having, and so I'm happy with that and happy to support the changes that are made and the increase therefore to the board to oversight them. So hopefully you'll support these. I think it'll benefit the City of Burnside.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. I just want to apologise for getting up, but I just asked Mr Cant to close those doors because it stopped some of that music from coming through as loudly as it does. So now, Councillor Dawes, you're seconding?
I'm seconding.
Don't wish to speak at this time? No. All right. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Haller.
It's not really a question, it's just a comment.
If it's a comment, you're debating. So if you speak as a comment, you have spoken.
Okay, that's okay.
So you won't get another opportunity to speak, that's all.
That's okay. Just that it just seems strange that we're asked to approve those 2 appointments, and I don't know, we know nothing about them. There's no CV, nothing, and I'm happy to, but I just think, well, we don't know anything about them.
I'm sorry, I missed the last part.
The CVs that we did.
You did get copies of the CVs? Yeah. Confidential?
Yeah, through Madam Mayor. They were sent through to all elected members.
Oh, you might have missed it, that's all. Yeah.
Yep.
They were sent with the agenda item.
I saw the agenda item, I didn't see it.
Yeah, so the normal practice, and I'll follow up just to make sure something can go awry. The normal practice is if we're appointing anyone in particular, we put the motion up, but we keep the CVs confidential just out of respect for the individuals, and then we circulate that under separate cover confidentially.
Councillor Jones.
Look, I did see the CVs, but what we didn't get from the board was any explanation of why they thought these 2 people should be appointed to the board.
Now we know.
Well, we don't know. We weren't told. We were given a copy of 2 CVs. Well, so what? So I personally don't think we've been given a reasonable expectation on which to make a judgment. So I won't be voting.
Anyone else? Councillor Hench.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's the governance and the council's, Burnside Council's interaction with the hospital. It's at arm's length, but we are asked tonight to endorse the appointment of board members. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment in that regard that it is, we are quite responsible in that we are endorsing 2 board members, yet we have an arm's length situation there because the council's not on the board. The constitution's quite clear about these things. I just wanted to make that remark. Thank you.
I just want to ask a question. I am of the understanding we also endorse other members of boards like Pineview, for example, and Era Water, and that's done in a similar way to this. Correct me if I'm wrong.
3 Madam Mayor. Yes, you're correct. Various rules or constitutions that we're associated with have that requirement. The Burnside Hospital is a little bit unique,
Yes.
In that we're not involved in the selection process, but the rules are quite clear that our responsibility is to appoint, but it's based on the recommendation of the board, which is what's before council.
And the board told us
evening.
at the workshop that they appoint people on the basis of their specific skills and the needs and requirements of the board to maintain the hospital. That's what I remember they told us.
Briefing, not anything that was published in an agenda paper.
Oh, thank you,
Did you have
Madam
a question?
Mayor. Yes, the CEO's made that comment that the board has recommended these two appointments to us. I would just like to amend the motion so that those words are in there, that council endorses the appointment of Mrs Anderson and Warlock to the board, etc., as recommended by the board of Burnside Council. Would that be helpful? Perhaps Mr Cowley?
It is contained clearly in the report where we quote the rules. I don't think it's adding anything, but if it makes council comfortable, I'm certainly happy to include the words, but I don't believe they're required.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? I have a blank screen, so therefore I'm going back to Councillor Davey.
Thank you all for your comments and concerns. I think we have been given a fair amount of information. We did have a briefing, albeit confidential, because it's a business and commercial matter that we're dealing with here. The two appointees that we're being asked to endorse are currently already on the board of SportsMed. So I think it's an entirely reasonable business decision and clinical decision. I mean, they're both medical specialists and consultants, that they be added to the board of directors at the Burnside, what is it called? The Burnside SportsMed Hospital now. I forget the full title.
Burnside Hospital Stepney.
Stepney, thank you. To complete the board, which is to a maximum of 10 members. I think this is in line with I believe this is in line with the hospital constitution. We have had legal advice to make sure that we're covered to this effect. So I'm satisfied that we are and hope that you will support this motion. Thank you.
All those in favour? Against? Motion is carried. Now we move to the next one, Councillor Dawes, I think, although there's no name on the screen yet. Oh no, this was your motion on notice, wasn't it? So it's Councillor Dawes, I think. I've just got to find the right page. Wait a minute, no, I'm looking in the wrong place. Sorry, I've got to skip over more pages. That's question on notice. Second, next one is Councillor Jones. 13.2. Page 83. I've got my pages muddled, sorry. It is actually Councillor Harvey, not Councillor Jones, and it's the illegal felling of trees on page 81.
Thank you, Mayor. The motion is that Council registers its disgust at the recent illegal felling of approximately 50 mature native trees in Aldana Reserve North, resulting in the destruction of this beautiful, highly valued open space and wildlife and bird habitat, and receives a report as a matter of urgency which outlines how this area can be remediated with fast-growing replacement trees as a matter of urgency this 2023 planting season, and what type of large billboard can be erected ASAP at the site, which outlines and publicises council and community concerns at this selfish, opportunistic vandalism to a highly valued local community reserve, and what we are doing to replace the trees as soon as possible. Recently, we learned of between 20 to 50 beautiful trees illegally felled in Aldana North Reserve on Patrick Old Drive. How can this happen? One tree is disturbing enough, but up to 50. Someone must have seen or heard something, yet it seems nobody did. Wildlife and bird life losing their habitat, and the illegal clearing of this huge area of trees, opening up this land for potential fire risks. We have to do all we can to bring these perpetrators to justice, even knowing that if we do, it will be a small fine and potential rap over the knuckles. How heartbreaking for all, particularly our volunteers, to discover this, and how lesser off for our community to have this occur. I draw your attention to this photo I took of the area. I had to drive to Taringi to actually take this photo, as you cannot see it visibly from Patrick Old Drive. It is actually below this huge white house, directly in front where there is the clearing. It highlights the area of destruction immediately below this house on Patrick Old Drive. We need signage, we need community awareness that this is illegal destruction of our trees and environment. It is totally unacceptable, and council condemns this and will work hard, I'm sure, to find out who is responsible for this. We need to express council's stand on the illegal removal of any tree with signage, and details on how to report this to council and community awareness. I am hoping this area can be somehow revegetated with support of some planting. It is now a potential fire risk, and it looks ugly, and it is a sad situation that this could even occur. The perpetrator must be found and charged. Recently, a tree was legally removed on a property in Kensington Gardens Reserve. I had residents calling me in tears. This is the effect that it has on people when huge, beautiful trees are felled, whether it's legal or illegal. It has to stop, and I hope you will support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Jennings, if you need to use your phone, there's nothing to stop you from going out and receiving or sending a message. Okay. I'm sorry. No, look, I'm just raising the issue and making sure that you are aware that if you do need to use your phone, you can leave the room and use it and come back. So, all right, Councillor Henschke, you're seconding the motion. All right, thank you. Do you wish to speak now?
I reserve my right. Thank you.
All right. So the next person is Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I have an amendment to the motion which I've sent through to Wendy and Bronnie. I've just sent it through. I've just made a couple of additions with the consent of the mover. Thank you. So it's to register as it's discussed the recent illegal felling of approximately 50 mature native trees in Aldana Reserve North off Patrick Old Drive, resulting in the destruction of this beautiful, highly valued open space. Council receives a report by the end of October 2023 which outlines how this area, in addition to the regrowth, can be remediated with fast-growing replacement trees as a matter of urgency this 2023 planting season, and the installation of a billboard or signage to 30 metres squared, which can be erected ASAP at the site or adjacent to the regrowth area, and which outlines and publicises council and community outrage and concerns at this selfish, opportunistic vandalism. And then a new point number 3, as a matter of urgency, provides a phone and email contact site for the community to report concerns relating to tree damaging or removal activity. So I thank Councillor Harvey for her motion, and I hope someone will second this amendment. It is an amendment, which is an additional third point. A couple of actual clarifications in terms of, I actually think, in line with the CEO's recommendation to us in the motion, that we actually put up a billboard or signage, because I don't want to see whoever meticulously cut down these trees benefit from it, whether it's by the sale of their house, having removed trees that they think devalue the house, or whatever reason. I would like the community to know that on that site these trees were destroyed and what council is doing to replace them. And I think we should leave it there for however long it takes for the trees to start growing. I also think it would be really helpful, if we haven't already, installed a hotline or a phone line and an email contact site where members of the community who might notice this can either email in the middle of the night, because increasingly these activities are happening in the middle of the night, or make a phone call to a dedicated site so that we can actually get this highlighted. It outrages me, and it also amazes me, that no one noticed that these trees had been cut down for a month. So it was the poor Trees for Life volunteers who administer this site who discovered it, and the trees had been demolished for over 4 weeks. So I think we need to really be more proactive, and I don't know what, I don't think it would take much to have a dedicated site for people to report this activity, but we're having it time and time again, and I think we need to make it as easy as possible for our community to contact the staff to investigate this and intervene where they can to stop it. So hopefully you'll support this motion. Thank you.
Just before I seek a seconder for the amendment, I'm just suggesting that we call that 2A and B instead of dot points. I just think that's clearer. And the other thing I want to raise is that I visited the site, and to me there are 2 potential locations for boards. I actually rang Mr. Cant because I couldn't find the access to the site from Patrick Auld, and it's just a little narrow walkway that you go down by the side of the fence, very steep. But there is another access point which is actually at the end of the next street down, which is Bushy Park Drive, that Mr. Cant told me about, which was a much easier way for me to access the site. And I think if you agree to put a sign, there should probably be one at each of those 2 access points, because they are the 2 major access points to the site. And there may even be another one from down much below, right down below, but I'm not aware of that. But I think if you decide that this is what you want to do, then there probably are 2, possibly even 3 locations. Anyway, CEO.
Oh, I could just add, Madam Mayor, we will include that in the report at locations. And if I may, just while I've got the floor, I think I need to acknowledge Minister Champion. When I was speaking on the radio on one of the opportunities they had on ABC, Minister Campion came on just after me, and he made a public commitment to support us with replanting activities. So as part of this process, now I note in the report we have talked about the fact that natural regrowth might be the way, but whatever the outcome, I will reach out to Minister Campion and
accept his kind donation.
Thank him for his offer, and see what we can ascertain further help might be from his office.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Turnbull.
I'd just like to,
I need a seconder for the
I'll second
amendment.
it.
You're happy to second the
Yes,
amendment?
thank you,
Okay, thank you.
may I speak?
Yes, of course.
Because actually I was going to do exactly the same thing, but she's beaten me to it. But, so it's an important issue, because really, we really need to raise awareness of what to do, either by social media, using the Focus magazine, which so many people read from cover to cover, and put in some phone numbers. I didn't know that on the weekend you just rang the ordinary council number and you get put to a call centre in Port Lincoln. Thank you, Mr. Camp. I didn't know that. Most people don't know that. And this is when the illegal activities occur. It's weekends, night time, and they think, maybe it's okay, maybe it's not, what do I do? And so we need to really make a big issue of where to ring, a big paragraph like that in the Focus. And so surely that buzz of chainsaws up there that would have gone on forever and a day, and nobody reported it, is very, very odd and also disappointing in all those words, but maybe they didn't know where to ring. So my big issue is, please can we make a great big effort and put signs up and social media, all that sort of stuff. Thank you.
CEO wishes to respond.
Just want to add a little bit of commentary. We think we understand why the activity happened in such a stealthy manner. When we've investigated, they actually weren't cut by chainsaws. They were cut with hand saws. So what we believe has happened is, over a period of time, whether it was 3 weeks, 6 weeks, someone has gone in with a handsaw and randomly cut, 1 or 2 or 3 trees at a time with a handsaw, rather than... Well, it depends how much noise the operator makes, but the handsaw itself is non-powered, so it's just a silent action. I suspect that's why people haven't been as alerted to hearing a chainsaw.
Right, so we have a seconder for the amendment. Now, can I put... No, Councillor Henschke, you want to say something?
Question, please, Madam Mayor. Raising awareness, I agree with Councillor Turnbull. So does the city have signage, small signage, raising awareness that this is a park and there are trees that are protected? Words to that effect. Thank you.
Short answer is no, but we need to put it in context that where it is, it's quite an inaccessible site. And I guess the question is, where do you stop with putting a signage? However, because of the events that have happened here, I think it's highly appropriate that we do put the biggest sign possible, with as much material on that to educate maybe the people that were involved, and send a strong message.
Just say that it's too late, unfortunately, for Focus for this one, but certainly social media has been very active. I know I went up and took photos and put it on my Facebook page, and also the one at in Darrell Avenue, and the Darrell Avenue one was actually in my last Burnside highlights, but this event happened, or we've discovered this event since then. I certainly could mention it again tomorrow when I'm recording my Burnside highlights for this week as another reminder. But I just was wondering the other thing in relation to this, is there a problem with the email contact, etc.? Metaversity provides a phone and email. Do you understand how you're going to do that? Is that going to be on the signage or what? Just number 3. It's not clear how you might be actioning that.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm quite comfortable. We'll be doing it in a couple of places. One, we'll make sure it's very clear on our website, but we'll also be making it clear on the billboard. So I'm quite comfortable,
You're comfortable
with how
with
we
that,
deliver that.
Just for clarification. Right, Councillor Dawes.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add to Councillor Turnbull. So when you ring that number, you do get the call centre at Port Lincoln, right? However, if it's a tree felling issue, they immediately contact one of the rangers over the weekend. So it's not just reported and then it appears on the CEO's desk on Monday morning, all right? So I just want to make that point. The other point I want to make, this is a dreadful example of tree felling. We've had one in Wattle Park in our ward and another one off of Ifile Drive in the last month. So this is 3 occasions This is the worst one. I do definitely agree with that. So I think community awareness is the major thing here, what Councillor Davies has mentioned. So even if we could put some temporary signs in those other locations, I think would be worthwhile. Just a thought.
Councillor Davey.
I just had a question, if I may. Is it understood that the billboard could go in front of that house? Is that as close to it as possible, with the phone number or the hotline number on there as well? I don't care where, as long as it...
No. Through you, Madam Mayor, what I'll say is we'll be placing the billboard to have the desired effect.
Yeah. That's not actually, that one is actually not the most obvious place. At Patrick Ald and at Bushy Park Drive are the two places that will have an impact with the residents, because they're both dead-end streets.
But I just don't want anyone to capitalise on it if they cut it down in front of their house to sell their house.
Don't worry, both sides of the house will have a sign. Okay, Councillor Hallett.
This is my question. Would it be possible to actually door knock in the area to ask residents whether they did see anything? And it is possible to have a 1-800 number, so it's, like a free call, and they can be monitored as well. There's services that provide that. And I'm the same as Jane. I actually think that I'm not so much interested in capturing people that are walking through. I think you have to position the sign, and obviously the staff will pick the best location, but to me it's about positioning the sign where the trees would have been, and they chop them down obviously for a view, so then put the sign up and that's their view.
Through Madam Mayor, I'll just run through those. So the first one about approaching residences. So one of the things we did immediately is we followed up from the event that happened in 2018, where we had legal advice and we were actually able to ascertain who had cut down the trees. And as a follow-up from that, the lawyers have recommended, and we are taking this advice, that we door knock and interview every resident that surrounds this property. So we are doing that as an active step. With the 1-800 number, I think it would be doubling up. So I probably won't pursue that, but we will make sure the number that you do call is very prominent and obvious, and make sure that the back end works and that flows through seamlessly. And with your last point, I perhaps was a bit vague in my response, but our intention is to have something at the similar heights of the trees that were there, so that people who thought they were achieving an advantage will suddenly find out that they no longer have that advantage.
Thank you.
Could you turn? Thanks. Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question, out of interest and actually out of despair. You referred to the illegal clearance in 2018. How many trees were removed, and was there ever a prosecution?
I don't know the number of trees removed, but what I can share, there was a confidential settlement reached, so there was no prosecution, but there was a significant sum of money paid to council.
You can actually see that the remnants of those trees from 2018, those ones were definitely chainsawed because they were big. Councillor Jones.
A question. Will there be floodlighting to illuminate the sign at night? Or would that require me to put a second amendment?
I suspect that may not get through the DA process, but
Come on, what about that big one on
but I am happy to include commentary about the possibility in the report that's coming.
If you do that, then you need to do something about those lights up on Mount Osmond, because they have an issue, for me, they have a massive issue with land, with animals and bird life at night, when those monstrous 4 big massive spotlights that can be viewed from the city of Adelaide are seen when somebody drives in front of this man's house, with 4 spotlights that come on, massive spotlights that come on as soon as you drive into the area. So that is, for us, live up there, a much more of a problem. Or I shouldn't say as much of, it is a violation of the rights of the animals and plants that are growing there and the other residents who live on that hill. Anyway, it's another issue. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on the amendment? Because we need to vote on the amendment before we then go back to the original motion, or amendment becomes a motion. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour of the amended motion? Yeah, the amendment. The amendment, I should have said. Right. Those against? Then the amendment is carried, and the amended motion now becomes the motion. And are you happy for me to put that as well? I'm getting the feeling that it's going to not have a great deal of opposition. So I will put the motion as it now stands. All those in favour? Well, and you do have the right, but I just got the feeling that you're not going to get too much opposition, Councillor Harvey. So, all right, those in favour? Against? Carried. Right, yeah, thank you for the motion too. Now we move to Councillor Jones. Reduction of numbers of members, it's page 83.
Good evening, colleagues. Look, why am I proposing this motion? Well, it's democracy, isn't it? I am seeking to maximise the voting power of democratically elected community representative council members on the CAP. The CAP is important. It's where, I mean, I've only got 3 minutes, but simplistically, where the most contentious planning decisions go for a decision. And if you wander around Burnside, every time you see some ghastly monstrosity and you wonder how on earth did that get approved, it's the CAP. So it's very important that we have maximal community representation on this decision-making body. At the moment, we have 1 council member, who happens to be Councillor Dawes, and we've got 4 independent members. Now, if these 4 independent members were sort of community worthies, you might say, well, that's not too bad, but the way the legislation is worded...
I think you have to be careful about making aspersions about members of the CAP.
The way the legislation is worded is you have to be an accredited professional to be an independent member, which of necessity means you're almost bound to have some connection to the property industry. So what we have, the result of this is, if you look at the voting record of the CAP meetings, by far the best voting record is held by Councillor Dawes in terms of standing up for community and common sense. The second best voting record is Councillor Wilkins, which is quite remarkable given she only attends meetings when Councillor Dawes isn't there. So you can see there is a real reason why we need to maximise elected members' representation. Now, so look, I'd like to, a point that the CEO raised was that reducing the numbers on the CAP would reduce diversity of opinion on the CAP. I think it's actually the exact opposite, because at the moment, the 1%, the property industry, get 80% of the votes, and the community, the 99%, get 20% of the votes. My proposal, if proposal 1 gets through, community representation would increase to 25%, and if proposal 2 gets through, community representation would increase to 33%. So this is really a very modest increase, entirely within the bounds of what is allowed by legislation. I think that to an extent that we can maximise community representation, we're doing the people who voted for us a favour. We're doing nothing wrong. We're simply taking advantage of the legislation as it is to our best advantage, as opposed to just saying, well, everybody else has 4 independents, so should we. No, we're Burnside. We're better than everybody else. We should take advantage of the legislation to the extent possible, and we should maximise it to community advantage. So really, that's what I'm doing. The reason I've got 2 motions is because I'm aware that some people would be comfortable with reducing the membership to 4, but not to 3. So I thought, well, let's have a vote on 4 first and see how that goes. And then if there's enough of us, democracy activists in the room, and we can get 3, well, so much the better, and that will give us the best result. But 4 would be a good result, 3 would be a great result. I hope you'll vote for both, but I very much hope that you'll vote for this motion, the first motion, to reduce the cap to 4 first of all. So that's it from me, thank you.
I'd just like to make a comment, and that I think we have to be very careful if we make slurs against people who have got training and who are not necessarily the property industry. There are requirements under the Act that require people who are independents and elected members to undergo training in order to be a representative on a CAP anywhere. And that without that training, without that certification, they cannot be considered. Currently, we have an engineer, a lawyer, a designer, and a heritage expert who are our 4 independents on the CAP. And they do provide a wide range of skills. It is your decision as to whether you remove or move the number, but I just want you to be very careful with the language that you might use in relation to those people who have been our independents and who will be in future our independents. And I do not wish to have problems with the state government in relation to or any potential defamation by making any slurs against any existing or future members of our CAP. Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Wish to second. Thank you.
Yes. Seconding the motion, but you're reserving the right to speak later.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question. My question is, how long has the engineer, the lawyer, the designer and the heritage expert been on this CAP panel? Starting with the engineer, how long?
All of them have been, the current panel, who are coming to the term of office and will no longer be there unless, of course, they've been reappointed in October. They have each been there 6 years.
6 years, which is plenty, really. Thank you.
But that's why there was recently, we had 23 nominations for applications, and last week we conducted interviews, and the number of appointees will be dependent on decisions that are made tonight. Councillor Wilkins.
Madam Mayor, with respect, there's not a heritage expert on the panel.
I apologise, I thought Kate?
Planning.
Oh, she's a planner, sorry, I apologise. Councillor Davey.
Thank you. I thank Councillor Jones for his motion on notice. I think this is something that's very timely to consider. It is absolutely regrettable that we don't have anyone with heritage knowledge on the panel, and I think we should. We don't have anywhere near enough community representation. And up to date, I want to congratulate Councillor Dawes for the sterling job that he has done representing the community of Burnside, and Councillor Wilkins when she's deputises. But we don't have anywhere near enough representation from genuine community representatives.
That's unfortunately a decision of the government. The government only allows for every cap to have one council member. And the rules have changed quite a dramatic number of times in the last 13 years that I've been on council. Councillor Dawes.
Oh.
No, you go first.
No.
I insist.
If you're going to argue about it, I've got now Councillor Hallett at the top of the...
Me? Yeah. Thank you. I'd actually speak against the motion because I think that I understand what Councillor Jones is saying and why he's actually moved the motion, but I still think that really it's just banging your head against a brick wall, and it's going to cost council a lot of money because we're curtailed by the Planning Act. It doesn't matter whether we've got 3, 4. We have to make rulings around what the Act says and what the code says, and there's very little wriggle room. So basically, you're not going to get changes by reducing the numbers, because while you might then refuse a development, all that will happen is there'll be a challenge, and then we'll have to be paying more lawyers' fees to peer. So I don't think that's the way to achieve councils having more of elected members having more of a say. I don't think it will get us anywhere.
Now Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry about before. I was just thinking, if there are 4 members on the cap, if the chair has the casting vote, and this may happen more often than we realise, so I won't vote for this one. I'll be voting for the 3, because then the chair doesn't get the casting vote all the time.
Councillor Dawes.
Yeah, well, what I thought I would do, and I did say this to Councillor Jones, is I'd look at the number of applications that have come before CAP while I've been on CAP. And that's been 2.5 years, and there were 65, and that was up to, not the last meeting, but the one before. So this was done a couple of months ago. Of the 65 applications, 41 were approved, and I was one of those in the approval. Most were 5-0, so 63% went through. And remember that we look at applications which are either being opposed by residents or there are some issues with the design, right? So they are difficult decisions to make. And also 11 were not approved by CAP. 11 of those 65, which is 17%, and most of those were 5-0, all right? And I was with those that not approved. What I looked at in particular was where I lost, if I can use that term, either 4-1 or 3-2. How many were there that I lost? And there were 13. So 20% of the applications that came before CAP over the last 2.5 years, I could not support. Whether it would be because of the bulk of the design, or whether a number of guidelines had not been met. And of course the problem is guidelines, and I hate that term. I wish they were definite considerations, yay or no. But we do have a very open debate at the meetings, and there are occasions where we've had little wins, but unfortunately we've had a lot of losses. And in answer to the query that was raised by Councillor Hallett, I don't mind going to the court. I don't mind that, because what we're saying to developers is that we've got a very, very strong standard here and we want it to be met. And what that does, we might lose some, we might have to pay a bit of money, a bit of extra dollars, but when they come back next time, they will be very careful as to what they propose. So I'm throwing that into the mix so that everybody understands as to what has happened with CAP over the last 2.5 years.
I have an empty screen. Does anyone wish to speak? Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Dawes, for that timely information. I go back to the previous council I was on when Councillor Davey and I first started, Councillor Monso as well, when the whole council sat as the development application panel. We did go to court over many matters, and Mr Cant would attest to that as well. There was a Labor government. They were wanting to advantage certain section of the community in development applications. We lost our total council sitting as the DAP. We were told that there in the legislation that there was going to be zero opportunity for community to be involved. The council supported a motion that I put up that we keep the status quo at the time, and that was 3 council members on the DAP. It was hotly debated because we actually lobbied all of the MLCs and the House of Assembly, and hence we went from 3 to 1. Rao supported, was beaten. He's had to have 1 person from council on there. It hasn't worked out for the best. Heritage hasn't always won. It hasn't sometimes even been considered, which for me is just an anathema. And I actually will support this. Let's put it out there. This is what we want. We want to stand up for what our community is wanting. They want to see us active in this space, retaining the built heritage and the natural heritage. We've argued about natural heritage earlier this evening, but the built heritage in our community. And even today on ABC radio, people were ringing in about the loss of their community in the neighbourhoods that they are living in all over the metropolitan area and even in council regions. So I think it's important we speak up and put forward what we think is important for our residents and what our residents want us to speak up about. So I will support this. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Now.
Thank you, Mayor. And simply, the government signalled to us that we can reduce down the number of independent members. So thank you, Councillor Jones. So let's do it. Let's put people back into planning. Let's increase their voice. The data shows, we've heard tonight, there's data behind this decision. It aligns, it resonates with me when I was on the CAP, when you were there for the people and your voice was eroded sheerly on these numbers, 5 to 1, number of times. And I do implore the council to support this. We've got a signal to all that Burnside has quality, not quantity. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
I've got a question, Mayor.
Yes.
I've been hearing conversations that maybe sometimes they don't have the right qualifications or the people we're looking for example, heritage background. Could we then tell the assessment selection working party that we just want people from these backgrounds and then recruit them in?
The interviews have already taken place. The shortlisting has already happened. There was a lot of quality control over the criteria that were used for selection. There was also a lot of quality control in terms of the elected members chose the questions that they were to be asked during the course of the interviews, and heritage was certainly a question that was asked of all of them. In fact, 2 of the questions actually covered the issue of heritage. I might add that the applicants were all very strong in their skill-based and their passion for community. One of the criteria was that they all should live in Burnside, but that was not the way that it actually worked out in the final listing of those that we interviewed. But I think what you have to remember in this is that you're not increasing the number of community members. You are decreasing the independents with a different range of skills. If you choose to have a lesser range of skills, then it's up to you. But what you are not increasing is the number of community representatives. Only the state government can do that and will do that. And they have made it absolutely clear in the past, and Councillor Wilkins has given us the history, that they will only allow one. And they could even change that and remove them completely. They have that power. So that's what the current status quo is. And we would be the first to go, not the first to go to 4, but certainly we would be the first to go to 3 if that were to be the case. But that's your call. Anyone else who wishes to speak? Then I shall go back to Councillor John.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, colleagues, I cannot increase the number of council members on the cap. In an ideal world, I could, but I can't. But what we can do is increase the voting power of council members, and that's what this motion does. Now, in response to Councillor Hallett's concerns, I think there is a very real importance to having a council member vote because, as Councillor Dawson said, these are guidelines, they aren't rules. If there was nothing you could do, if it was all driven rigidly by the Planning Act and the Planning Code, all the votes would be 5-0, and they're not. Because you get people voting to say, oh look, the minimum block size is 400 square metres, but 300, that's fair enough. Oh yeah, that's all right. Minimum site coverage 50%, oh 70% should be right. That's what we want. That's what we want democratic elected members of the community to say. No, it's not all right. Legal fees. Again, I agree with Councillor Dawes. The on the run at the corner of May Terrace and Kensington Road, we went to court and we won. Yes. And that was a good use of ratepayers' money, in my opinion. Look, developers do not make money by spending money on lawyers and being tied up for years in court battles. They're spending money on legal fees, and they're paying interest on their loans because they can't do developments because they're stuck in court with us. And look, taking the government to court, and we are the government, is a fool's errand in my experience because the government has got effectively bottomless pockets. We can spend as much on legal fees as we like, we can drag the process out, and as Councillor Dawes said, you'll do it once, you won't do it again, you'll come up with more sensible applications next time. In response to Councillor Zing's question, yes, very much we have tried to, the elected member representatives on the selection committee have tried to steer the criteria towards heritage, people with an interest in heritage, asking questions about heritage, but ultimately you can only interview the people who apply from a limited pool of people who are professionally accredited. So that's why, in my view, having the greatest voting power we can have for community representatives, council members, is the best. So I hope you will support this motion.
Those in favour? Those against? The motion is 1. Now we moved now you're going to run the second motion.
Thank you, colleagues. Why am I running this motion? Well, it's about democracy, isn't it? Thank you for voting the last motion. Look, the arguments are the same. If we can increase our community voting power from 25% to 33%, that will be an even better result for the community tonight. I don't propose to speak at length, so I hope you will support the motion.
Councillor Turnbull, you wish to second it?
I wish to second it. Thank you. I reserve my right to.
Councillor Davey?
I support this. I won't say anything more, but I support it too.
I'm just going to raise the question, what happens if somebody's sick? You have to have a deputy, and that means you have to have a deputy independent. If the independent is sick, you end up with two. Otherwise, you have maybe two people or even one person making this really, really important decision.
Can I ask Mary,
and what happens
to the motion or
and what happens?
Point of order. Are you speaking to the motion? Can
no,
you
I'm
clarify?
asking the question: what happens if? And
it's
the
a
other
very
question,
long question.
And the other part of the question is that what happens if the elected member is sick and is unable to be there because the person who replaces them as a substitute or as a reserve has to also have done the training, otherwise they can't be on the cap. I'm raising those questions, and I'm asking that through this to the CEO.
Through Madam Mayor, I think it's up to the council how they want to handle that. If they're comfortable with 3, that's the council's decision.
Right, okay.
I suspect that through experience it may become obvious needs of a deputy.
But how do they do the process? Do we appoint a deputy as a result of the election process, like the nomination, the process of the interviewing that we've gone through? I'm trying to find out how the process will work.
So at this stage, Madam Mayor, for example, if this motion was to get up, we would just put up a report recommending the recruitment of 2 external members.
One
One external member, including the external chair.
The chair has another year to run.
Yeah, that's what I'd do.
And we would, in order to have a deputy elected member or council member, there would also have to be a process for that as well. Yes, we have. Okay. All right, thank you. Councillor Dawes.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councillor Jones knows my opinion about this. It is too drastic a step going from 5 to 3. You know, I would consider this after a year, and we see how it goes with the 4. If the councillor-elected person on the panel can't persuade another panel member to vote with them, then so be it. You know, I really think that 4 is going to give us enough expert opinion on each application before us. Please remember that neither Councillor Wilkins or myself are planners. You know, we're there to listen mainly for the community and also, you know, checking on things like bulk and on the various, what are they called again? Oh, I've lost my train of thought. Guidelines, those dreadful guidelines that we have. But yeah, I do have some sympathy, but not yet. So if you could wait a year, I would prefer that. And as we do with most things, you know, we kind of think, oh, that could work. Let's see how it goes for a year or whatever, 6 months, whatever the time period is, and then we can make another call. So that's my my thoughts.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? I've got no one on the screen. If I have no one on the screen, then I'm going to go back. No, we have a second. I don't have a seconder. Sorry, it was Councillor Turnbull, then you're needing to speak. You don't wish to speak? All right. Then I shall go back. Oh, sorry, councillor Henschke suddenly put a hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to just speak, just because I'm not speaking doesn't mean I don't support the motion. I think this would sharpen the focus of the other panel members and their skills will come to the fore like never before, because there'd be only 3, so 2 and then the 1 elected member. And so I see that it would be all their skills and capabilities of the 2 independent members will all have to be exercised nicely. And yeah, I support this motion. Thank you.
Now, if there's no one else wishes to speak, I'll go back to councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, if I could just briefly reference councillor Dawes' point. Don't forget, we do have a source of expert opinion, which is the council planning staff. And everything that goes to the CAP, there is a report from the council planning staff which makes a recommendation and discusses the technical issues in really quite a lot of detail. I mean, these CAP papers are hundreds and hundreds of pages long for what may be 5 or 6 cases. I mean, there is no shortage of expert opinion there that the 2 independents there would be and the 1 council member have to reference in making decisions. So I really don't think you should be worried that we're losing expertise. What we're gaining is community and democracy. So I hope you'll support the motion.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Well, you call it division after I've had a vote, because currently it's 5-5. And I do not support this motion, so I'm against this motion. And now the division, you can call the division. All right, so, all right, councillor, all right, those who voted in favour of the motion, please stand. Councillor Jones, councillor Davey, councillor Henschke, Harvey and Turnbull. Those who voted against, councillor Jennings, Wilkins, Zing, Hallett, Dawes and Mayor Monceau. Thank you. Now we move to proposed vegetation. Councillor Cornish. Now, is that someone was going to run that bylaw on Councillor Davey? You're going to run that on Councillor Cornish's behalf.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Councillor Cornish unfortunately isn't able to be with us tonight, but he's moved this motion. I don't need to read it out, do I? No, it's before us. I support it. I think in light of the previous discussion we've just had tonight and concerns that we constantly are having to address, we have increasingly a problem with vegetation and removal or pruning. So I think exploring the opportunity for developing a bylaw which includes all the aspects such as the legal, financial, consultative provisions and how it would be enforced, and then the report that should advise on the appropriate size of the vegetation that could be managed that is to be included, as the 6 metres is a proposal. So we're just seeing too many trees on our public land removed without permission. We've also heard of trees on private land being removed without permission. Our canopy is reducing all the time, and I think we need to actually introduce a bylaw, promote it and encourage it so that the community knows that someone has the right to remove parts of the urban forest where they have the right. A permit system that can be verified would be beneficial for our community to ensure people are doing the right thing. So hopefully you'll support this. I think this will go away to, we'll get a report so we can evaluate it, but I think this will go some way to us being able to get back a modicum of control and for our community to be able to be helped to understand what they can and can't do. Thank you.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Henschke. Withholding your opportunity to speak. Thank you. I might as well take that as a foregone conclusion for everybody. Councillor Dawes.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councillor Cornish and I have had an email exchange over the last couple of days, and the question I asked him first was, why 6 metres? You know, I thought that was, you know, I didn't understand. Could it be 5 metres or 7 metres? And he was trying to indicate that he didn't want to stop residents from saying it was a high bush in their backyard and it was causing a problem. So he thought 6 metres was, you know, just above the ceiling height of a house or further, and it was a starting point. That's what he said to me, because I thought it could be 5 metres or something like that. But I am supportive of this. I know there's a strong chance that the state government will disallow this, as they have with the Unley City Council and some of the things they've tried to do. But I think we should give it a go. I really do. And the reason for this is because of what's happening with some of our trees, and we've already talked about that earlier tonight under Councillor Harvey's motion. So let's see how this progresses. We might have some problems, some roadblocks along the way, but what it might do also is say to the state government, hey, yeah, there is something in the future that we should be doing, and it's good that Burnside Council has raised it. So I'm prepared to give it a go.
Councillor Jones.
Look, I agree with Councillor Dawes. Who dares wins. I could have said that about the previous motion as well, but I won't labour on my defeat. But look, I'll be supporting this motion.
Does anyone else wish to speak? I have no one on the screen. Councillor Wilkins.
I know 6.5 metres is the height of the ridge top on a house, but when you have a tree that is dying and it's not regulated or significant, and it might be cypress or some other evergreen shrub, and you want to take it out because it's being killed by the moth or the insect that's attacking the tree, I think one should be able to do that, because on your own property, and particularly if you're a gardener or you garden and you are improving your own space, I see this as you're not specifying any width. Could a person take out the tree that might be dying if it's...
You can, you just need a permit to display so people know what you're doing.
Yeah, but you shouldn't need a permit if something is actually dying and be eaten by the moths or whatever that are going around cypress or yews. You can take it out now and replant, particularly if you're replanting. So that's the impediment that I think this is.
Have we got someone actually debating here? Because, yeah, okay, so now Councillor Henschke.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor.
You second this motion, are you asking a
I'm
question?
speaking now,
You're
yes.
speaking.
Thank you very much for clarifying, yeah. So just briefly, we are going to be receiving a report which is really good, and we'll just see what the benefits and costs are and the risks with having a permit bylaw. And for example, a benefit might be, well, you know, if you've got a property and you've got, you know, trees on it, and you might not know you've got a significant tree. Maybe this tree needs to be listed, you know, so at least maybe this system does kind of flush these things out and are helpful. You know, on the other hand, yes, you know, it could be, you know, increase, you know, grief for residents because, you know, oh gosh, you know, we've got to, you know, do paperwork to trim our tree in our backyard, you know. So, look, this report, I do hope, covers all of those concerns for the community, and we can then, once we've got all the information, then make a decision. And also another, you know, raising awareness about what trees are being cut on people's property. Another benefit is, oh, you know, when people wake up on a Saturday morning and you hear a chainsaw, they say, oh, it's okay, you know, I know that my neighbour's chopping the tree down because there was a notice about it. That's helpful. At least that starts a conversation between neighbours, because a lot of borrowed greenery happens between one backyard and another, and reducing surprises between people's backyards is a neighbourly thing, and maybe this permit system will help the communication. So, yeah, I support a report. It's an important topic and lots to be investigated in him. So I hope you support the report. Thanks.
Councillor Jennings.
I think the idea of a report on this is excellent. There is everybody, well, let's say 80% of the population is walking around with a smartphone in their pockets these days. And if they see something that just doesn't seem right about this chainsaw going on, they can go up and check the QR code. We've all gotten very used to it during COVID. And we can, yeah, the more citizen aware citizen scientists we have out there who are just helping keep our green canopy, the better. I think this is an interesting experiment and I'd like to see how it goes. Thank you.
CEO just wants to make a comment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to tidy up a little bit of process, if I may. Mr. Spearman's brought to my attention that our rules provide that the person moving the motion must table the permission from the person who put in the motion on notice. And I'm pleased to advise that Councillor Davey has provided me with a copy of an email from Councillor Cornish. The only reason I say that is I do need to list it in the minutes.
Yep.
So I learned something this evening, but it was important that I share that with you. Thanks.
Publicly stated I'd received that email as well, so now it's clear for everyone. All right. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this? Otherwise, I'd like to go back to the mover of the motion, that is Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for your input. This is just asking for a report, so we're asking about the feasibility of it, and I thank Councillor Cornish for all the work he's done on it. I note, as you'll see on page 88, how much policy is affected by this. Just look at the list of all of our policies which relate to, which he's carefully listed, which relate to our vegetation, maintaining our vegetation, looking after it, our community gardens, our open space, streetscapes, climate change. We need our green landscape to ameliorate climate change, recreation and sport. There's just so much. So I think staff will be able to give us a good report. And as Councillor Dawes has said, this might be disallowed down the track, but I think we've got to give it a red hot go. So hopefully we'll support this and we look forward to a report. Thank you.
All those in favour? Against? Carried. The next one on nuclear waste from Councillor Cornish will need to be deferred to the next council meeting because no permission has been granted on that one for someone else to move that. So we'll now move to the final one, and I know it's 9 o'clock, but I think we've only got this one item, so I'd really like to move through that and then declare the meeting closed after that. All right, so Councillor Zing.
Thank you, Mayor. I just also want to thank Councillor Davey for her support in drafting this, along with Martin Cooper as well. I think this motion is something that probably should have occurred much earlier. It's simply seeking for a broader framework in ways we're addressing inclusion and diversity in Burnside. However, moving forward, we as councillors are able to identify the upcoming workshops and draft ideas together. I think before major developments, both the community and us should all be putting our minds together and exchanging ideas. We've now an opportunity to examine the current practices, but also where we can improve. There must be clear intent and understanding in the future before we develop any action plans, programs, working groups, etc. We need to understand what they are for and share our ideas as one. We should be promoting inclusion and diversity across all aspects such as disability, elderly, youth, cultural groups, etc. The priorities and strategic direction must be set from the top down, and we should be workshopping these ideas together to find ground where most of us are able to agree. I see the report as a roadmap that will guide us, as will provide all CEMs an idea of what Burnside has planned for the next 12 months, and we're going to have our say in ways to improve. Thank you.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm very happy to second this. We have, as we know, we recently had a census. Was it last year or the year before? We're just starting to get all the reams of census data and the new data in from this, which is really gives us a great deal more information about the makeup of our community. And as Councillor Zing has said, we need to look at the inclusion and diversity of our community from the disability sector, the multicultural sector, the aged, increasing elderly population, and our youth, the growth in our youth sector. So there's a whole range of different approaches or different numbers and metrics now that we need to deal with. So I think this is very timely for us to be able to, as an overarching support for our strategic direction, to have a report about how we're going in this regard and what opportunities we've got for our planning down the track. Things are changing dramatically with our financial situation, and we've got a lot of demands on the spaces, open space and the community facilities that we've got. So I think this is a really good way to start having a strategic approach. The one thing I'm not sure about, and the staff might be able to help me, is our disability and inclusion action plan is runs out in 2024. So I'm not sure how this process could inform that as well. And that could be probably included in that consideration of that could probably be included in the report. But I think this would be very valuable work to do and really help us inform our work and planning. So hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Jones.
Can I ask a question, please? Isn't this already covered in our strategic plan? Isn't that one of our core strategies, that would be like a diverse and inclusive community?
Through Madam Mayor, obviously I'm not the mover of the motion, but I'm assuming that, yes, there would be something in our strategic plan that would point out potentially have a focus on this area. I'm assuming that this is seeking to delve deeper into that component.
And I think Councillor Davey is correct. It needs to be in line with the direction that the diversity and inclusion working party or working group is heading, so that there's a consistent monologue or dialogue going on, so that we know that it's both heading in the same direction. Because I think there is some separation there that needs to be either compartmentalised or included together. So Councillor Henschke, I think your name was on the screen and now it's gone again.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I was just, wasn't sure whether I should ask the question, because I was a little bit confused as well with, like, Councillor Jones, because we are doing strategic planning, 2030 planning, and, we have all these type of intents anyway in our planning. So I just sort of wasn't too sure, like, what more we will be doing with this, that's all. And whether it's duplicating, but it's all good stuff.
Just a little point of clarification. Martin's dutifully providing feedback away from the office has just mentioned that in the feedback we've received to date from council members, it hadn't been raised. So it's certainly formally been raised now. So it may not have appeared in the feedback if it wasn't raised this evening. Just sharing that, referring back to Councillor Jones's question, so far in the feedback we've received from council members on the strategic plan, no one has raised diversity and inclusion. Now we've got it formally raised, it will go in. Yeah.
I just said I am surprised that nobody identified it in all of that big process of the workshop we had. All right, Councillor Henschke, you have another question?
Oh, yeah, just a question that when you're talking about being raised, do you mean at the information session workshop that we accidentally didn't raise this? And we needed to raise it to actually have it captured? Because it was about, we were asked the question, like, what was your wish list for the next 4 years? It was like three things, and it was like, there's so many things.
Yeah, through Madam Mayor, I'm sure there would have been some more broader topics that potentially this could have sat under. But in terms of those specific words, diversity and inclusion, that wasn't on any of the feedback. But it's okay, because we've got it here now.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Otherwise, I'll go back to Councillor Zing. Councillor Zing?
Happy to just vote.
I'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Those against? Is that an against, Councillor Jones?
No, it was for.
Oh, okay. Can I just do it again then? Those who are for the motion? Those against? Carried. Unless anyone has any other business, urgent or other business, then I am prepared to declare the meeting ended at 9:12 p.m. And thank you for your attendance. Thank you to the staff as well.